Hey comic book fans, it's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and here we are on day 2 of Baltimore Comic Con. I'm getting ready to head in. It's a lot earlier than yesterday, so I'm hoping to be a little bit further up in line. I do have VIP pass today, so I can get in about a half hour early. I'm going to head straight to the Art Adams line and then try to wrap up the rest of the autographs today and finally dig into the comic books and see if I can find some of those big keys that I'm looking for. So stay tuned. I'm going to shoot some footage today, and hopefully that'll be a little bit more than yesterday. But guys, sit back and enjoy all the footage, and I'll come back later today at the end of the video and we'll go over any comics I got, and we'll go over any of the books that I got signed today. So take care, and I will be right back. All right, guys, so we're done with day 2 here at Baltimore Comic Con. As you can see, everybody's letting out right now. It's really noisy. I'm right out here on the street, and everybody's letting out, and everybody's underneath the cover because it's already started raining. So it's going to be real interesting getting back to the car. Hopefully I'll keep everything nice and dry, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll get back to the house. We'll sit down. We'll go through all the books that I went through today. We'll talk about the day and how it went. Talk about what I got signed, and I'll show you. I actually ended up picking up one comic book today, but I got to spend a lot of time at the dealers looking at books, and I made a nice little list of everybody I want to come back to tomorrow. We're going to bring in some slabs and some comics tomorrow to look to trade, so we'll talk about those plans as well, but stay tuned, and I will be right back with you. All right, everybody, I finally made it back home. I got the books out. I organized everything so we can go through this a lot quicker than I did last night, but just to begin with, I had a great day on the second day of Comic-Con here in Baltimore. It's been a really good show in terms of the number of creators there. But my biggest complaint so far really has just been that it seems like the organizers have really packed that show with a lot of vendors, and the aisles are tight. And it's just a little, again, I think I said this last night, it's a little claustrophobic for me. No, I mean, it doesn't bother me that much, but it's just something, I guess I've been comparing it to Heroes Con so much, where there's such an open floor plan, you can breathe. It feels like you can breathe at that show, and this show, it doesn't feel like that. So that's my biggest takeaway, but it doesn't diminish from the creators that are there. I had a great time getting autographs. I was, again, with the VIP badge, I was able to get in a half hour early. Today, the doors officially opened at 10, so I was able to go in at 9:30, and I immediately went down and went to the Art Adams line, because that's who I wanted to get off the list today. And after that, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do after that, but we did have an order. We got a lot of books signed, not quite as many as I did yesterday, but we're knocking them down right now, and I've only got really about 1 or 2 creators left for tomorrow, and we'll go over that after I go through all the books and the things that I got signed today. But so let's just start with it. Art Adams, nobody was there at 9:30, so you basically had to wait for about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes for some of these creators to get in. Some creators were there about that time, but most of the people were coming in around 10. That VIP badge actually really, for me, in my opinion, really does 2 things for you. Well, the main thing, it gets you in there early. Okay, that's great. That's the main thing. But for me, it's one of 2 things. It's get in there early and get your CGC witness, or get in there early and get to your line where you want to get something signed by which creator. So, like I said, today was about getting Art Adams first, and then I was going to basically get a lot of the other things later in that day. Jeff Johns was going to be later that day. That was a timed event, so that was okay. So I went in. I was third in line, waited a little bit. I'm looking down. I got the books right here. And he finally showed up, and we started signing. And let me just show you what I ended up getting signed. I had a nice conversation with him. I actually haven't seen Art Adams in person and got something signed from him face-to-face in probably 40 years. Yeah, is that right? Let's see. What was this? 2023, 13, 10, 30 years. 30 years. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 35. And we were talking, I said, yeah, I got to see you down in Roanoke, Virginia. And he didn't recall that, ever being to Roanoke, but he said, we're both getting old, so, which is true. But we talked about a little bit about the creators that were there back in comics, because I said, I remember him being there when Dave Cochran was there. And he said, well, that's probably, it might have happened. Who knows? That's been a long time. Anyway, he signed all the books, and let's just go through them real quick. This is Avengers Classic #1. And this is when they were reprinting, just like they did Classic X-Men, they did the original Avengers stories, and there's a couple of new stories in the back. So not only did I get Art Adams, and here I'm going to put it forward so you can see. Right up there below my finger, you can see his autograph right there in red. But right there, you might see another autograph. That's Kevin McGuire. He did one of the backup stories in here. So I got him to sign that. And
that was pretty cool. I think it's a beautiful cover. This is, I would like to have that as a nice print to put on the back wall, but I didn't see that as something available. I got this. This is from Unknown Comics. And this is something you saw in some of my previous videos. I just got these back. I got 2 of these back graded 9.8s. This was a spare copy that I had bought at the time when I bought these raw copies from Unknown directly. I bought a couple additional ones because I just wanted to make sure I got 2 that were 9.8 candidates. And I ended up with 3, and this one had a little bit of a crease in the cover right here in the red, so I had pulled that one back, but I decided to go ahead and get this signed as well. This is a homage cover, of course, to Hulk 181. It is, if I remember right, it's technically, yeah, it's one of the new ongoing series of the Hulk number 4. So that was really nice. This is Fantastic, the new Fantastic Four book run. It's issue number 1. It was a variant edition of Wolverine. And you might wonder, why is Wolverine on a Fantastic Four book? Well, he was part of that new Fantastic Four that I actually will show you that book in just a little bit, and we'll go over it. But there's a reason why Art Adams did Wolverine on a Fantastic Four cover. And you can see a signature in red right up here. Yeah, he really liked the red pen today. It was odd. It is what it is. He likes his colored pens, that's for sure. Now, this is a piece that you've seen before. I've shown it to you before. It's Marvel Fanfare. What is this, 13 or 12? Yeah, this is 13. This is part of that story that mostly drawn by George Perez. It was a solo Black Widow story that ran, what, 4, 5 issues? And this last issue I wanted to get signed. I had already gotten it signed by George Perez years ago. And who else did I get on here? I got John Beatty. Who else is on there? Let's see. Do I have I have a list. John Beatty's on there. Brett Breeding? Or is it Breading? I never can remember. Charles Vest did some pinups in here. I'm reading the back because I've got a list. Al Milgrom, of course, edited Marvel Fanfare. And he did a kind of a what do you call it, in person. He did a cartoon that actually showed him being the editor of this book in here. And of course, this book right here was, the cover is by Art Adams. And I actually got Jim Shooter too on this. So this is actually a pretty nice cover. I think I've got just about everybody I can possibly get. I still need, I guess, Ralph Macchio. I think he was the editor-in-chief, or just the editor, I can't remember which, on this. But yeah, that was a pretty nice piece. And here is that classic X-Men we talked about, I referenced a minute ago. Now, I had kind of wanted to get this graded. A graded version of this, because Chris Claremont is actually at Baltimore Comic Con this time as well. Both of them were there. In fact, they were sitting practically next to one another. And I wasn't going to get in his line because I've actually got some X-Men books that I want to get signed, and I might get those graded by CGC. So I'm saving everything for tomorrow. There's 2 things I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to save getting Chris Claremont on any of my books I want, whether I get them CGC'd or not, and I want to actually buy some comic books. So this right here was on that list. I would love to get that as a graded 9.8, but the problem was I was not finding candidates that were 9.8. This is pretty high grade, but it's got a little spine tick that you can't see on the white, but there's a black back cover that comes around the edge here on the spine just enough that spine ticks show up real easy, in other words. So, but this was still a really nice copy, and I wanted to get Chris Claremont on this as well tomorrow, so I'm saving that for tomorrow. And here is that Fantastic Four that I talked about, reference with Wolverine. This is Fantastic Four, what is it, 348. It's the new Fantastic Four. Hulk, Grey Hulk rather, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider. And what you've got here is a nice jam piece. I got all of these this weekend. I got Al Milgrom. You can see him down there at the bottom. And today I ended up getting Art Adams. You can see his signature right there. And up here, it's a little hard to see. Let's zoom forward just a little bit. You can see Walt Simonson, who actually wrote this book. He drew that up there. And I'll talk more about Walt in a second, because Walt is the second person I wanted to get stuff signed from today. And I knew that was going to be, I had to make a choice today. Do I do Art Adams first or do I do Walt Simonson first? Walt's line is extremely long and it takes forever because even though he's limiting how many books he's signing, people are still giving him 10 books apiece, and he's still doing sketches for a relatively low cost. And it's taking forever. And by the time I got finished with Art Adams and got in line, I went over, and I am probably 200 people back at this point. And this line is not moving. And I've been in this kind of line with him before at Heroes Con a year ago, and it never moved. It took me out, I mean, multiple hours. Thank God my wife was there to spot me so I could get other things signed, kind of. It was just awful. Well, interesting, what happened was Walt came around twice, and the first time he was explaining to people in line, and he explained it over multiple times because he didn't just yell and expect everybody to hear him. He came and talked to groups of 5 to 10 people at a time, and then he would just keep moving on. And he finally got back to the back, and he said, explain the rules: 10 autographs, first one's free, every other one is $10. Sketches, I think, were $25, and then remarks, and there was some stuff, and all that money was going to the Heroes Fund. But he was doing this to kind of control the crowd a little bit, so it wouldn't be quite as bad of a line. Well, it didn't matter. The line was still awful. So about a half hour later, he comes back and he says, hey, anybody who has just a single item they want signed, I'll sign it now and you can go on. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I've got maybe 5 things, but I didn't, 3 of them I was thinking about just getting graded maybe without even signing it. And I'm like, I can do that. I can pull those out. So that left me with definitely getting this book signed, which I did right there. And I basically pulled a jackass move, and I said, hey, I pulled both of them at the same time, and I had 2 jam pieces. You saw this one yesterday where I got a lot of artists signed, and I pulled this out, and I said, hey, do you mind just doing this one too real quick? And he said, yeah, it's $10. And he kind of rolled his eyes because that's not what was supposed to happen here. So like I said, it was a little bit of a jerk, but I know that to stand in that line was going to be 3 to 5 hours probably to get up there to get there, and we just wasted the day. And to be honest, I wasn't going to be able to stay there the whole time. I had a Jeff Johns signing after lunch that was going to run right into it. But so I was the jerk. Just call me out on it if that's what you want. But he did the second one here, and he did his, it's up here in the trade dress, right up there. But I also got, and I kind of went right past Art Adams there. This was the other book. I got both of these books done by Art Adams. Of course, we just talked about that with Art Adams right there, but Art Adams actually signed this one. He did the cover to X-Men Heroes and Heroes for Hope down here at the bottom. You can see it right there. It's in red. You can see it. So when I finished with Walt, he said, hey, if anybody needs Louise, hey, just going up there. She has her own line. It won't take very long. You just go through her line. You can do her line separately. You don't have to do both of them at the same time. And she did some writing in this book, and you can see her autograph right up here. So I got that, and I actually got this. And it's funny, I don't remember a lot of people ever getting this signed, but this is a facsimile edition. I'm doing it kind of for fun. I started at a Heroes Con. I've got Chris Claremont and Joe Rubinstein on here, up here. Kind of hard to see that Rubinstein. It's in gold. Doesn't show very well on camera there. But Louise Simonson did the editing on this before she was married to Walt. So it's Louise Jones who did the editing on this. But she signed that down there. And if you watched all the footage there, you saw I took a picture with her and everything. And she's always so nice. Just one of the nicest people that you meet at the cons. And to be honest, most of them are very nice. So that says something when I say she's probably one of the nicest people there. So that was kind of the wrap up of the morning. And I still haven't really looked at comics yet, although the way the Baltimore Comic Con does this is they kind of start to mix the artist with the vendors a little bit. And maybe that's part of what I don't like. It's It's not like you have to have them in two separate rooms and divided by this great divide, but it would be nice to have it spaced out just a little bit more, because those artist lines really start to fill up the aisles and it's hard to get around. And if it's on top of a comic vendor, it's hard to get to see the comics at there because you got people just standing there waiting, and it's hard to get in there sometimes. But like I said, that was it for till about noon. I ended up going and grabbing just a quick bite to eat, and then I headed upstairs at the Baltimore Convention Center to one of the signing rooms where they had an area set up for Geoff Johns. Well, he was doing a panel from noon to 1 o'clock at a different area in the convention center, and then at 1 o'clock he was going to be down in this area, this other ballroom, to do or conference room, to do a signing. And well, I didn't go to the panel, so I took advantage of that, and I got up there. I was probably about 40th back in line or so, and I'd already had my tickets for that. So I just waited for that, and people started getting in line behind me, and then all of a sudden, the dam broke loose, and everybody was just pouring into this line. It must have been, within a minute, there must have been 300 people in line, and I looked at the guy behind me, and I said, the panel must have just let out. And he said, yeah, it did, because they actually left a few minutes early from the panel while they were doing the Q&A so they could get in line. So, it was unbelievable how many people were there for Geoff Johns. So let's go through that real quick here. Let me just start with one of the giveaways that he was doing. He had little ash cans of Geiger Ground Zero that he was signing. In fact, on mine, he was testing out his gold metal marker here, and I'll show you why in a second. But so I got an ash can signed by Geoff Johns, and then I had bought a package of 4 tickets, and while I was standing in line, I actually the vendor who was, or the service, the people who were organizing the signing there were coming around, and if you wanted to buy additional tickets. So I ended up buying 2 additional tickets, so I did 6 autographs altogether. This did not count as one of those. So let me just show you. Originally I had 3 comics I was going to get signed, plus an additional thing in the back here, and I'll show you what's sitting back here behind the comic here in a second. And then I said, well, wait a minute. I've got an additional comic book that was signed by somebody else, actually a little bit before that. I want to add at least 1 autograph. And then I had another comic with me, and I said, you know what, let's just get 2 extra autographs. So with the extra autographs, I got this. This is Flash Rebirth. And he did a remark of the lightning bolt right there. Here, let's zoom forward there. And it was funny, I did the Flash, but everybody around me, in front of me and behind me that I could see, were bringing Green Lantern things. And he was doing a little Green Lantern remark on just about everything. And I kind of made a joke. It's like, I guess I didn't get the memo to do strictly Green Lantern. I brought you the Flash. Well, I ended up getting, let's see here. So I ended up getting 3 other comics signed, and these are all from Brightest Day, and I'll show you why in a second. Brightest Day, he wrote this, but if you notice the cover, it's by David Finch. Well, David Finch was down there today, and I got him to sign that a little bit earlier. I did issue number 0. This is issue number 4, which is a minor key right here. And issue number 5. And I basically just picked out some books that I really like for David Finch that had a crossover with Geoff Johns in this case. And maybe there's some better issues than this, but the Hawkman one, man, I really like that. I'm a big fan of Hawkman. And I'll show you something in a second, one of my last autographs from Geoff Johns. But this is where I'm going off the rails a little bit, guys, because I'm getting things signed here. I brought these because it was Geoff Johns and David Finch. What I didn't realize is that Peter Tomasi, who did the pencils on the inside, let's see, yep, right up here at the top, he was there, and it was Geoff Johns himself. He said, hey, you know Peter's here as well. And I'm like, no, I did not. I did not know that. thank you so much. I immediately left the room and went straight downstairs and got him to sign all 3 of these issues right there. You can see all 3 autographs right there. And this one's a little bit harder to see. He signed it up there at the top under the trade dress. But here, let's put this cover. You can see the autographs right there. But the other 2 things I got signed, one was my Marvel 50th anniversary book that I've been getting signed since, I think, 1993. I've shown that book on this channel before, and I will show it on the day 3 recap where you can see some of the stuff that I've gotten signed throughout the weekend. I haven't shown that book at all. But the other thing that I got Jeff Johns to sign was this right here. And this is the reason I actually went to get Jeff Johns, was to sign this piece of original artwork. It is from Hawkman, the series that he did. Let's see. Series he did with Rags Morales. This is issue number 15. Here, let's zoom through. Can you see that? And I had gotten this signed a number of years ago by Rags Morales himself. And that's why I wanted it in gold. Right there, there's Jeff Johns who signed it. I like the fact that this page had this intentionally black border around here. It made a beautiful signing area. This is really nice. I just need to get Mike, is it Bear? I believe it's Mike Bear who did the inking on this. I needed to get him at some point. But that was the reason I went and got Jeff Johns. And really, the other things were all bonus things. And as I said, the 6th autograph was that one in that Marvel book. And I'll show you that in tomorrow's video on that. So that was it for Jeff Johns. That was it for David Finch. David Finch. What am I saying? So I did one other book with David Finch, and that was Batman number 98. And he only did the cover to this. But the reason I got this cover is, one, I love Batman David Finch, but you got Punchline, early Punchline, and then you got Harley Quinn right there. But look down here in the corner. Earlier this year, I got James Tynion. So wanted to add Finch to that right there. So yeah, that's actually really nice. I was happy about getting that. But I had a couple extra copies of this, and I was going to get those signed as well. But $10 pops, $10 pops, $10 pops, and I'm like, money just starts flying out. And I'm going, I would have just saved those for the next time James Tynion shows up at Third Eye Comics in Annapolis. And what am I going to do with those? So I just pulled some of those books back. All right, just a few other things I ended up getting signed. Next on the list was somebody that's, one of them is local here to the area, and I've talked about her before. It's Trish Foistner of Stray Dogs fame, and Tony Fleeks, her co-creator on this. And I ended up getting the Stray Dogs Free Comic Book Day comic signed. I don't think I got this signed. I'd seen them last year down at Heroes Con together, and Trish Foistner has actually done signings at Third Eye Comics in Annapolis, as well as shown up to other creators' signing events. When Scotty Young came to Third Eye Comics here last year, Trish came and was a fan, and she ended up getting in line right behind me. So we spent an hour and a half waiting in line and going through the store until we actually did this, got up there to the top, and I got my Scotty Young stuff done. And I went on and did some shopping in the store while she talked with Scotty Young, and I talked to her afterwards, and she said, yeah, she kind of got a lot of grief from him for doing that. It's like, why would you do that? Just come on in. I mean, they're co-creators. They actually did covers for each other's books. I think he had done covers to some Stray Dogs, and she had done a cover for, I don't know which series it was for Scotty Young. He does so many different things, but anyway, they both did covers for each other's books. I mean, come on. But it was cool for me because I got to spend a lot of time with her, and this was before Heroes Con a year ago, and we got to talk about some of that experience, her talking about maybe going down there and things like that, and it was really nice. And we kind of joked when I saw her there today, and she said, yeah, that's my buddy who stands in line with me to get Scotty Young. So it was kind of funny. Anyway, the other book I ended up getting signed, and there's so many covers, I just cut it down to 2 books today. I did, like I said, you can see their autographs right there at the bottom. But I ended up with this. This is Stray Dogs Dog Days Part 1, but it is a Mill Geek Comic Tom 101 exclusive cover. And sorry for the Mylar that this came in. It's very shiny. But they both signed in the kind of neon green to match the cover right there. But that was pretty cool. I got this off of Comic Tom's channel one night on Whatnot, and I just kind of been saving it. The idea was I might have sent it in for CGC. Well, to be honest, Stray Dogs has kind of lost a lot of its gusto, and I'm not sending any more Stray Dogs in to get graded at this point, even though this is a great exclusive cover, a limited print run, I'm sure. It's enough for me just to get this signed by the creators and move on. I like that just for the PC. All right. Next up, and we're almost done with the autographs, guys. I ended up going back to Mike Grail. I'd gotten some things signed from him down at HeroesCon, but what I couldn't find when I was down there was his Green Arrow Longbow Hunters Prestige format miniseries. And I finally found it before I went to Baltimore Comic Con this weekend, and I ended up getting, because he's $20 an autograph, I'm not going to just get everything I own signed, but I did want to get a copy of his Longbow Hunters #1 signed, and that just looks beautiful right there. You've got the spot of green where it just signs, beautiful signing spot. And then I did this, and I only did this because of the artist on the interior was actually there too. This is Karate Kid #1, and this is a really nice copy. This is one of those that I had actually considered getting graded. I've cleaned and pressed that. It's ready to go to CGC. Well, not anymore. It would have to go to CBCS if I want to get this graded. But he did the cover to Karate Kid #1. You can see his autograph right up here. But also who did this interior, Joe State, it's Joe Staten, right? Is that that's how you say it, right? He was the artist on the interior. So he was there, and he was the last artist I ended up getting things signed from today. But the other thing that I got signed from him was this right here. It was a copy of E-Man #1, but it wasn't the Charleston Comics edition. This is the Modern Comics edition, which is a reprint. And you can see his signature right there below E-Man. And I was real happy with this, even though this is a slightly rougher copy. And then I was done. I was finally done with the autographs. I was going to wait for the Chris Claremont signing on when it starts on Sunday. So that's the first thing I want to do on Sunday morning. And maybe I may end up hitting Adam Hughes tomorrow too, but at this point in the day, the lines are long and the artists are tired and they're taking breaks, and yet you don't know when they're going to re-sign. Literally, Adam Hughes was just sitting there, and I think he was doing lunch and talking while a line was forming, and it turned out that line was only for sketches only. And it's like, I have no idea when the signing's going to be again. So I definitely Chris Claremont, maybe Adam Hughes on a couple of things, and maybe Don Rose on those Donald Ducks I talked about last night. I don't know. We'll see. But tomorrow, well, the rest of the day, I mean, we're talking about 2:30 today. I was finally done, and I finally got to start going around. And you saw a little bit of the footage of some of the comic dealers there, but I'm sorry I didn't take enough footage. Tomorrow, I will try to take more footage of the actual comic books for sale. I felt like it was just great to finally start looking for books, and I'm looking for that Hulk 181, a raw copy. I'm looking for dealers who might want to make deals and make trades. Because tomorrow I'm planning on taking in a short box of some graded stuff, and I'm hoping to be able to trade up for that Hulk 181, or at least get in the ballpark, maybe a giant size X-Men #1. I mean, that's my main goal, but to be honest with you, I wasn't finding a lot of raw on either one of them. There were not a lot of copies in this room like it was at HeroesCon. And as soon as I noticed that, I started making a list. I made a list, and I basically went through the map, and I zigzagged every row until I got basically kicked out at 7 o'clock tonight. I didn't even get to the last 2 rows, but I checked every comic dealer that had stuff that had of interest to me. And I made a list like, is that a book I want to come back for? Is that a book I want to come back and see if I can make a deal? Can we mark a trade? And I was very open and honest about it. And I ended up getting to the dealer Cards, Comics, and Collectibles, who has the biggest booth in the whole convention center because they are the host of the Comic-Con. And I'm looking at some really good books, and prices are outrageous, and it's okay. I wasn't worried about the prices at that point. But the last and the only comic book I ended up buying today was this right here. He said, the guy, I said, oh, let me take a look at that. And he said, oh, you're going to like the price on that. This is actually a really nice, he picked it up and he's like, oh, this is really nice. And I had to laugh because this is the first time I'd seen it on a wall. I don't know why this is on a wall. It's a $10 comic book. I literally paid, I probably overpaid, to be honest. It's a $10 copy of E-Man #1, but it is the Charleston Comics edition. So you can see the difference right here. The only difference is the companies right there. And I immediately went back over and got Joe Staten to actually sign that one too. So that was the last autograph of the day, and that was actually the only comic book I bought today. But I did spend, like I said, I spent a lot of time making a list, and I ran into some dealers that recognized me from last year. It was kind of cool. I ran into some fans of the channel that I got to talk to. It was weird when I was at the Heroes Aren't Hard to Find booth. I started around the corner at the edge of their booth, and this guy who was right there, he looks up and says, "Hey, aren't you Rusty from YouTube?" And I'm like, "Oh wow, that's really weird." But thank you, I appreciate that. That's awesome. That's awesome that you watch the channel. So I appreciate that. I appreciate running into everybody that I've met on through the channel and everything. So that was pretty cool. Tomorrow, let's get Chris Claremont. Tomorrow, let's buy something. Let's buy something good. To be honest with you, I don't think that this deal is going to work. One of the dealers I talked to, I actually just crossed him off my list immediately, but I'm not going in there and begging for a comic book to trade. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have books that I'm going to show it to them. It's like, guys, do you have any interest in this? And if they do, then I'll talk about what I'm interested in on your wall, and we'll see if we can work a deal at that point. But the one dealer said, yeah, I do deals, but I'm going to make sure it's in my favor, and I'm going to take 20% off of your books. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's fair. But after my experience at HeroesCon, where I literally had some of the best dealers in the world, where they straight up, hey, I want these books, what do you want? And it was a straight up one-to-one deal. And after that, I'm not going to deal with somebody who kind of goes into it with, I'm going to screw you over first, and you're going to take it and like it kind of mentality. Maybe that's a little harsh, but as I said, if I hadn't had the good experience in Charlotte, I probably wouldn't have had this attitude now about hearing that directly from somebody like that. Be honest with you, I think there's a more subtle way to do that it would have been more acceptable, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. I'm done for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely hit that like button, slap subscribe, and hit that notification bell so whenever these pop-up shows come on or the regular shows come on, you guys will be alerted and you'll get to watch the show. And I appreciate the channel's growing every day, and I appreciate everybody, especially this last month. There's been a lot of people watching the videos, and the channel has really jumped up. Right now we're approaching that 1,400 mark, and I'm hoping pretty soon we'll get to that 1,500 mark, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I don't know where the channel's going, but I've enjoyed this a lot. It's a fun little creative outlet for me, and I enjoy meeting you guys, and I hope to see you there tomorrow. I hope if you're there in line, I know some people said that they were coming for the Chris Claremont line, so hey, I'll be in that line, so come, if you see me standing there, come and say hi, definitely. But I'm out of here, guys. I'm going to go get some bed. Go get some bed. That's good. You can see how tired I am. I will see you tomorrow for the day 3 wrap up, and that's it. I'm out of here. Guys, take care, and remember, every comic has a story.